Hello guys, and welcome back to this video. So today we're going to talk about Middle Ages. Specifically, we're not going to do the whole Middle Ages because it's too long, and we're going to split that up in different videos maybe, or different things that we really like, right? So specifically, we're not going to talk about all the Middle Ages, but we're going to talk about sex in the Middle Ages, right? Because there are certain things that for some weird reason are not reported in history books, but that is incredibly interesting. So we all know about the Middle Ages, that there were different philosophies, doctrines, sort of like spin-offs of religions, however you want to call them, right, in lay term or in layman vernacular, however you want to call it. There were many fantasies about how to build a society made completely of priests and nuns, right? About the end of the world, and about how sex was one of the greatest sins ever in this type of society. Certainly not for the late Middle Ages, but there was a period which, I mean, on the one hand, very wrongly was known as the Dark Ages. On the other hand, very rightly was defined so, where sex was definitely not to be performed, not to be carried out, because sex was a sin. Now, it wasn't just that sex with the sole purpose of getting pleasure was a sin. It was just that sex was a sin. So in other words, what the Catholic Church says is that the research of pleasure through sex is some sort of sin, but not really sex. But here we are going kind of a step further, declaring that sex, even if necessary to perpetuate the species, is also a sin. Now, in all of this, there were rules for whoever wanted to have sex, right? Naturally, in a marriage, it is expected, it is called like the duty, or one of the many duties of a wife or a husband is to have a sexual relationship, a sexual intercourse, maybe more than one, but it is required also in order to have children, right? But there were do's and don'ts at the time. So let's go through them. First of all, premarital sex was absolutely banned. It was absolutely prohibited, right? Virginity was the best virtue a woman could possibly have. Once you lost that, especially once you lost that without being within a wedlock, without being in a marriage, you were done. Not only done with man and you could go and become a nun, but also done in general with society, done in general with, your value in society. You were basically worthless. Also, you had lost completely your honor, so there was nothing to save there. Even if you were raped, in other words, it was like that, yeah? Because there wasn't the understanding of rape as something different, right? Those marriages were mostly agreed, so it was a different time where all of that wasn't really divided and classified in different terms, right? As it should be. But anyway, so premarital sex absolutely abolished. Oral sex, also not a very good thing, Oral sex was absolutely not allowed by the Catholic Church. Absolutely not allowed because sought out of pleasure and not out of love necessarily. Love I didn't have that much of a role in the society. So absolutely abolished. A little better than premarital sex, because that was executed with and was punished by disemboweling somebody, but still, you deserved hell, in other words. Now, sex in itself. So the sexier was the pulse, the worse it was, the easier or the further you would descend into hell. So the only pulse that was technically admissible was the missionary, plus sex was considered as, you know, supposedly it should be very very fast, where no pleasure was sought, where like mostly you would remain clothed, so that was not really and then again, we weren't in their bedroom, so we wouldn't know, but where sex was very, very restricted. And being restricted here was a huge deal, you know. And one particular thing is that something that was found to be very sexy was to show off the forehead. So women would have this sort of hairstyle where they would show a lot their foreheads. Some reason, I mean, every age has their peculiarity, I guess. And so that was pretty much, you know, the intercourse itself, which was a duty. Now, a duty, and the wife had to be absolutely faithful. There was no other way around for the wife. The husband was allowed some sort of leeway, some sort of pass, right? It wasn't considered proper adultery if the husband had cheated on the wife. So much so that there were brothels, there were prostitutes, and there were like this kind of like public bath looking places where you would find your prostitute, and then you would have a relationship, an exchange in either bathtubs or with mattresses, or mattresses covered by some sort of tents that was there, organized, set up for the encounter, for the meeting. And that was interesting. And also, sex was restricted by the calendar, because you could not have sex anytime, right? Religious festivities were absolutely a no-go, meaning you had approximately 185 days, right? And then if you transgressed certain rules, you would have repentance. And repentance was pretty much a certain number of days. It's usually 10 days, where you had to eat only bread and drink only water. And that was the restrictive diet that you would have as a sort of repentance for the crime of committing sex when not allowed, or in circumstances that were not proper. One more thing that is important to understand here is also that condoms were a thing. So everything could be used. Intestines and like the bladder of intestines, rather than linen, rather than leather also, right? And they were, again, constantly reused, so middle-aged people wouldn't score that much high in hygiene. But that's just a short parenthesis. Condoms were used and did exist. With that being said, faithfulness and absolute faithfulness was pretty much a requirement, again for men a little less, but there wasn't an idea of having a polyamorous sort of relationship, except for Germany, where polygamy was practiced. And also there was a form of polyandry, and that was known in the Mahabharata. So this was a form of community that was set out on polyandry, meaning one woman and multiple men. That was typical of certain communities in India. Now, with that being said, guys, I leave the comments to you. Please let me know what you think. Comment below, leave a like, tell me if you have liked it, you have enjoyed the video. We're gonna talk some more next time with a new different video. With that being said, guys, I'll see you next time. Bye bye.